It's the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, and it's supposed to be Thursday, although it's starting off like a Monday. Wade, how's things on your end?
Things are good. The sun is shining. We are one step closer to a big super regional weekend, and no complaints here. Things are pretty good, man. We got the NBA finals kicking off tonight. NHL finals will get underway shortly. It's a fun time in the sports calendar right now.
And there's more Giles County Little League tonight as well. Is that right?
Yep, games 4 and 5 will be broadcast on PCL's YouTube page, and Mark Mize. And the fun part about this, Mo, we went deep in our bag. We got Trent Maxwell, who you may know from Columbia State and Santa Fe fame.
Yeah.
But he's also part of our broadcast crew, so he'll be filling in for the rest of the series. They got the old guy out of the way. I'm off for the next 2 nights, and so Trent will be filling in tonight. And the funny thing is he actually coaches some of these kids as the Bridgeforth Middle School baseball coach. So should be some fun wisdom and insight on our
little
feed.
insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
It's a best of 7 series, so game 5 tonight is an if game, right?
Very much pending. Yeah, the upper or the kid pitch division is best of 7, and the machine pitch is best of 5. And both series, the American League will have a clinch closeout game to start things off tonight. So Trent could be only on the call for 1 tonight, or he could be for 2. But if weather and the series dictates, we would go again with games 6 and 7 potentially tomorrow night. And it went 7 games last year.
So it could be an early night then for some folks tonight down in Pulaski.
Could be an early night. And the funny thing is, you know how this goes. They tried to, and last year obviously went 7, so it played out perfectly. But you have teammates during the regular season. They threw everybody into a big pool and did an all-star draft to balance it out. So I don't know who's in charge, what sort of general managers are going to catch some flack for that, because the American League is up big right now.
So this is not actually an American League. They are just carrying the names of American League and National League. But
yeah, and if I recall correctly,
easily be East, West, or anything else, huh?
Yeah, because I think some of the kids on National League last year, the team that won it, are now a part of this year's American League team. So it was all kind of in a interest of promoting competition and promoting 7 games. But we've seen some lopsided performances thus far, and that will continue into tonight on PCL.
Sounds interesting. Sounds very interesting. Today's show, we've got in the second hour, we've got Titan insider Terry McCormick joining us. They finished up minicamp out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. We'll be checking in with him to see how things went out there. In the next segment, we will be joined by new ENSWORTH girls basketball coach SHARRONA REAVES. And I had to catch myself there because I knew her in high school as SHARRONA Alexander another lifetime ago. But looking forward to visiting with the new Lady Tigers coach. It's also Throwback Thursday, and at the top of the second hour, we will go back to our conversation last week with Marlins beat writer CHRISTINA NICOLA of MLB.com, talking a little Ryan Weathers before he had a career best performance in his last start and heading into his start tomorrow against the Guardians. So looking forward to that as well. We'll be talking a little Braves, probably, well, anyway, a little Braves, a little Astros, a little Skeens, because, you kind of have to, I think. And a little Women's College World Series, as things got off to a rousing start for one team in game 1 of that best of 3 championship series out in Oklahoma City last night. So we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. But yeah, big show, fun show, looking forward to it. And Wade, I guess we should go ahead and get started with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. The rundown kicks off now. Major League Baseball scores from last night. It was the Red Sox. These were both day games. It was the Red Sox defeating the Braves 9-0, and the Cardinals knocked off the Astros 4-2. Sounds action. Louisville at Nashville. That game is tied at 3, and that game will actually resume shortly after we go off the air today at 5:35. So they're going to pick that one back up from yesterday. A couple of games in the WNBA last night. My girls, the Vegas Aces, knocking off Dallas 95-81. And then caught part of the Lynx, Mo, as they dispatched the Sparks pretty convincingly on the road. It was the Lynx 86 and the Sparks 62 to cap yesterday's scoreboard.
Let's see. Today's schedule. It's 5:45 on Valley Sports Southeast. You can see the Atlanta Braves continuing their road trip with a game at the Washington Nationals. As we mentioned, Louisville is at First Horizon Park. They will resume that suspended game from yesterday at 5:35, and the regularly scheduled game will follow, which is True Blue Night, as we discussed with Chip Walters a couple of days ago when he was on with us. So if you're an MTSU fan, get on out there. Discounted tickets and a MTSU themed Sounds cap are in store for you. WNBA action this evening, 6 o'clock tip for the Chicago Sky at the Washington Mystics. You can see it on Amazon Prime. And at 6:30, the New York Liberty is at the Atlanta Dream. As we mentioned, the Giles County Little League All-Star Classic continues in Pulaski at Exchange Park. 5:45 is the start time for Game 4. Game 5 to follow if necessary, and you can see those on Pulaski Citizen Live on their YouTube page. So be sure and check that out. That is your rundown. Our top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch items that are available until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. So Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you today's top story. Wade, a lot of discussion about the Los Angeles Lakers and their coaching search. And it's wild to me the number of NBA teams that have gone in the direction of first-time coaches. And J.J. Redick is a guy who has gotten a lot of attention in this search. Little known fact, Cookville native J.J. Redick, by the way. But ESPN analyst, played for a while, obviously, stud coming out of Duke, but I don't know that I get the attraction there. Can you explain it? I mean, again, you follow NBA a lot closer than I do.
Well, a couple different potential angles on this. The big attraction, and take this for what it's worth, is that LeBron and JJ are tight. They've got their podcast. they've got a podcast together that has really kind of taken off in the last couple of months. And it almost feels like, after watching some of the clips come out of the podcast, JJ is, masterful at breaking down the game. Obviously, LeBron is a wizard at breaking down the game too. And I think really just the podcast alone, seeing those two guys talk ball and break things down kind of telestrator style, just kind of spawned a little natural inquisitive nature. And here we are. And JJ Redick has kind of emerged as one of the top candidates to potentially be the Lakers' next head coach. And you make a great point, and this is where things get really wild, is he's one of the lead analysts for ESPN as the finals kicks off tonight. So you were thinking if a move was going to be made, it presumably would have already been made. The only other situation is I don't know the parameters here. I don't even know if he's eligible to get hired right now, or they have to wait until the finals are potentially over, how that works. But his name has certainly been floated about. And I think, Mo, yeah, it is because him and LeBron are so close. And because the podcast is kind of taken off, they're thinking, man, these two guys are basketball geniuses. Imagine if one was the coach and one was, kind of the player coach in a sense, with LBJ still playing at a pretty high level. And it's kind of surreal to think about. But yeah, first year coach could be on the horizon for LAL.
Now, again, LeBron is his contract. He's a free agent. What exactly is LeBron's contract situation?
He has, I believe, an opt-out for this year. And so by and large, he's coming back unless, kind of like Chip Walters on Tuesdays, unless he doesn't. And it seems like LBJ, after some initial consternation, probably will come back. And so the Lakers are kind of in a weird spot, right? Because you want to do everything in your power to kind of woo him and keep him back and in good graces. The only problem with that is you really kind of sold a lot of your assets and kind of sold the farm for him and Anthony Davis to be paired together. And so they've struggled trying to find those key pieces to build around those two. And this will surprise you, but when the team doesn't win or perform, quote unquote, up to expectations, that's how the coach ends up getting fired. And that's why Darvin Ham's looking for a job. And that's why we're talking about his potential replacement at the moment.
JJ, in an article on CBS Sports, has said that the Lakers situation is something that he will discuss once the season is over. So he is focusing on his duties as an analyst for the NBA Finals at this time and kind of trying to put the quietus on this. Meanwhile, another article says Lakers targeting UConn's Dan Hurley, preparing massive offer per report. So, is this a smokescreen on somebody's part to get people off of the JJ Redick storyline, or how real do you think the possibility is of Dan Hurley, who wouldn't budge for Kentucky because his wife would divorce him, switching coasts to go to the Lakers?
That's one. I'm like you. I started seeing some chatter about this last night and into this morning, and it kind of caught me by surprise in the sense I felt like if this were a smokescreen, the time for smokescreens with Hurley had kind of passed after the Kentucky situation. And like I said before, we're all but erecting the statue already for Hurley out there in stores. So to me, it does feel like maybe one last potential, either money grab or just a clout type thing. However, I mean, you got to admit, if you've kind of quote unquote done it all and at the college level, and you've done it all 2 years in a row, you don't like your chances. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but who knows? UConn may just never lose another tournament game the way they've been playing the last two postseasons. But you got to feel that that's eventually going to take a little bit of a lull there. And so the one dangling carrot for a lot of college coaches is going to the association and coaching. And so in that sense, I kind of see the potential appeal, especially after you turn down Kentucky. It really, to me, only says the only thing I'm doing is staying at UConn forever and forever, or something outside the box. And this would certainly be outside the box.
This would definitely be outside the box. During that Kentucky chatter, he made a comment, there's no one coaching like me in the NBA. They're not ready, and certainly I'm not ready, but that is something I aspire to down the road. I don't know that anybody expected down the road to be less than 90 days, but
and it feels like Hurley is the type of guy, I could be totally wrong, but we're kind of talking about two different realms here when we talk about Redick and Hurley. With Redick, I think he obviously, if he wants to coach, he's certainly going to have an opportunity. This is the first one, but it's kind of almost stemming from kind of that buddy background in a sense with LeBron, because his name to the best of my knowledge, hadn't been getting floated around for many other jobs. Whereas Hurley, it feels like if he's taking a job, yeah, it'd be cool to coach the greatest of all time, and it'd be cool to, coach one of the greatest franchises in all of American professional sports. But this is not that great of a job in the grand scheme of things right now. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do. Yeah, and I say that on their end, but also think about it. I mean, you've got the Nuggets still as a powerhouse. You've got the Thunder who are on the come up, and neither of them are even the team that's playing in the Western, representing the Western Conference in the finals right now. You've got Dallas coming out. So the time to be in the West is not great right now. So for me, that's what kind of also feels like Hurley probably, for whatever reason, is being linked, but just feels like a little bit of a smoke screen.
And obviously the Lakers are in a little bit of a disarray. What'll this be? Their third coach in 4 years? Third coach in 3 years? Because again, Darvin Ham is gone. Was he there a year or 2 years? I don't remember.
2 years for Darvin, and
after Frank Vogel, right?
After Vogel had left.
So this would be their third coach in 4 seasons, whoever it is. Yep. And do you leave a 2-time defending national champion for that?
I don't think so. If you were at a different program at the college level, if you were at Kentucky or you were at a program that you kind of had topped out at, but you weren't winning the titles, this may be the move. We saw obviously Billy Donovan do that. That's kind of the one thing. And you see this in a number of realms. We saw it at the NAIA level a lot. You get these coaches that apply for these jobs at the Division I level, and they just can never break through. But once you do break through, you kind of get that blue swoosh, or that blue circle, as we would call it. Once you get that NCAA coaching resume carrot, it's a lot easier to get around and a lot easier to get jobs. So if Hurley were to go to the NBA, if he wanted to stay at the pro level, he would certainly be able to find a number of different jobs, whether it's a head coach or an assistant. And then you can always, much like anybody, you can always go back to college in some capacity.
Yeah, and once you've got that MBA on your resume, it's easier to go back as well, like you said. So
and real quick, and we're seeing that right now because Mo, I'm pulling up Bovada has odds because of course they do on everything. JJ Redick is your betting favorite. This is not updated, does not have Dan Hurley. James Borrego, who is a pretty decently thought of assistant with the Pelicans, is kind of the other favorite. But some other candidates on this list include, you keep scrolling, Juwan Howard, who was an NBA guy, went to college, and then back now currently in the NBA. He's on this list. And how about Jerry Stackhouse? If you bet $100, Mo, you could be $7,500 richer. But he is on the list. You can bet on Jerry Stackhouse. And if you go to the very bottom of the list, Pau Gasol is on the – talk about a friend of the Lakers. If Pau Gasol were to potentially step in. So that's kind of speaking to my point, I guess, is once you get that NBA kind of minted level, you can go back to college at any point. You can go to almost any other NBA job as an assistant. So that is the appeal for Hurley, in my opinion. But I just don't know that this is the right time or the right fit.
I don't know that it's the right time, but you raise a heck of a point. Would Vanderbilt fans not just lose their mind if Jerry Stackhouse got the Lakers job?
I mean, there's a million people. Becky Hammond is, by the way, listed at better odds than Jerry Stackhouse, for what that's worth. And a lot of folks think that she, is going to become the first female NBA head coach at some point. But yeah, the Vanderbilt contingent would certainly have a conniption, as some might say, because it's but that's the crazy thing, Mo, is just because you've maybe flamed out at Vanderbilt, Stackhouse knows that league better than he knew the college game. So maybe he ends up taking that gig, or, we're talking, that's an extreme hypothetical, but I could see him having some decent success. The Lakers are not putrid. They're just not great.
Yeah. Where is Dawn Staley on that list?
That's a great question. And she is not listed on here, which is kind of a bit of a shocker. You may have to talk to the folks at Bovada who provided this list. And there's one other female name that I saw just a couple of days ago. that escapes me at the moment. I feel like she might be an NBA assistant currently. There's three hot names: Staley, of course, and then Becky Hammond, who's kind of been touted for the last couple of years. There's a third name too that are kind of the three leading female candidates to break that barrier.
It wasn't Jenny Busek, was it?
You know, I don't think so, but there was a third female on that list. So either way, the Lakers, and going back full circle with the JJ Redick point, if he is going to, finish out the finals, if the finals goes 7 games, it ends on June 20th, and the draft is June 26th. So, and the Lakers now have a first round pick because the Pelicans, part of that Anthony Davis trade, they were entitled. They have a window basically to exercise that pick. And they looked at this draft board and they said, you know what? We don't want that first round pick this year. The Lakers can keep it. So the Pelicans will have their first round pick next year, but the Lakers as a result will pick number 17, in addition to what a lot of folks are borderline assuming will be the selection of Bronny James that they have in the second round at their disposal if they choose at 55.
Very interesting. Wow. Let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be coming back for Coach's Corner with newly named Ensworth girls basketball coach SHARRONA Reaves. Stay tuned on the other side of this break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another real estate auction Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. in the beautiful Hickory Woods subdivision. This spacious estate offers numerous amenities, perfect for the homeowner or investor. Conveniently located in Davidson County, Tennessee at 221 Wild Grove Court. This is the sale you don't want to miss. Join Bluegrass and bid with confidence Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wade Neely, I'm Maurice Patton. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We are in the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are now joined on Coach's Corner from her vehicle, newly named ENSWORTH girls basketball coach, SHARRONA Reaves. And I'm going to work really hard not to refer to her as Sharrona Alexander, because that's what I knew her about 30 years ago. So, Coach, good afternoon. Congratulations.
Hey there. Thank you. Thank you, Maurice.
Most recent coaching assignment was as an assistant at the University of Tennessee. You've been out of it for a little bit. What was it about this situation that drew you back?
Jason Maxwell.
Okay.
Jason Maxwell, athletic director. I wasn't aware that ENSWORTH was looking for a girls basketball coach. I literally, before I took this call, just jumped off of a stage in Louisville, Kentucky for my current job that I, have recently resigned from, doing a presentation. So I've been in corporate America the past 5 years and have loved it, and was still watching the game and engaged in the game, but, felt like that season of my life had ended. And Jason Maxwell somehow found out that I was in Nashville and that I wasn't coaching, and he and I had a conversation. And what's really crazy is that Jason is the cousin of the coach who recruited me to play basketball at the University of Alabama.
Dottie Kelso.
Dottie Kelso was her name, and she was our beloved coach. We loved her dearly. She recruited all of us who played on the Final Four, the 1994 Final Four team at Alabama. And we made an instant connection from there. And Jason just shared with me what his vision was for the girls basketball team. Of course, I knew Mary, who was there for years as the girls basketball coach. She was very successful. Through my years in coaching, I'd come to ENSWORTH many times to recruit. So I knew their campus. I knew how beautiful it was. And just connecting with Jason and seeing his vision, and then still feeling like there is an opportunity to really impart and help and serve these young girls and get them ready for the next level, since I've spent so many years in it and know so much about it, that I could really help.
Coach, as you take over, it seems like a whirlwind of a process to kind of start, but I guess my question is, where do you start and how do you get to work and try and build this thing in your own unique vision there?
I am big on culture. I've learned that over the years. You can have the best players in the country, but if your culture is bad, probably not going to be successful and win. So my first point of duty or emphasis of duty is to get in and get to meet the girls and know the girls. As I said, I've been in Louisville since Sunday at a conference. So with the breaking of the news of me going to ENSWORTH, I have not even had a chance to sit down and actually talk with the girls. I have emailed their families and said hello and let them know where I was. But on Monday, I'm looking forward to going in and sitting down and just meeting the girls on the team. Some of them I know, some of them I'm not as familiar with, but just sitting down and having conversation and getting to know them. I really want to take this summer and build culture. I want to build relationship, because they don't know me. They don't know much about me. They can look at my resume, but as a person, they don't really know me. And I want to spend time getting to know them this summer, spending time on the court, learning what they can do. So over the summer, I can develop what offenses I think are going to work great for us, what defenses I think we, could focus on and really be dominant in. So this summer is really just about building relationships for me.
You mentioned your conference that you're at. I'm picturing you at the podium, and then a tweet maybe pulls up on the screen in the background, and you just say, you know what, I'm out, and you drop the mic. Was it that dramatic? And this is an interesting change for you. Now, obviously, you know the game and know everything that goes into it, but you have been away for a little bit. So kind of maybe walk us through what you're most excited about, maybe learning or relearning, if you will, on your end as a coach and as a basketball fan.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to in high school that really didn't pushed my buttons to ever really kind of go back and look at college again is the transfer portal. Although kids can transfer in high school, they can transfer in high school, but that's not happening to the measure that is happening at the collegiate level. So I'm excited that I don't have to deal with that. And to be honest with you, as of right now, we don't have to deal with NIL in high school. So again, that's another reason why I feel like this was a good space for me at this time in my career to really build young women, build ladies, and help prepare them for the next level and really give them some insight on the NIL and transfer portal piece and knowing how to make sound decisions and helping families pick colleges that will suit them so that their child isn't in the transfer portal in a year or at their third school by the time they're a senior, and really knowing how to make those sound decisions. So that's really my process, is to really serve these girls, to educate them and to develop them. At ENSWORTH is a private school, so there may be seasons where we don't get a lot of transfers in, and that would mean we have to develop what we have there. So that's another thing that I really want to focus on at ENSWORTH, is just skill development and getting all of our girls the best opportunities that we can and having them prepared when they leave ENSWORTH as far as their athletic careers are concerned, because ENSWORTH is going to do the work on the academic piece, but just their athletic
there she is.
Sure that they're ready.
ENSWORTH girls basketball
my
coach
phone rang.
Sharrona.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. ENSWORTH girls basketball coach Sharrona Reaves joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. And Coach, as you mentioned, these young ladies may not be as familiar with you, but they can, take a look at your resume, and it is quite impressive. 2 years at the University of Alabama after playing at Okaloosa Walton, a Sweet 16 and a Final Four appearance there. Extensive collegiate coaching experience at Troy, a couple of stops at West Virginia, Mississippi State, and again, most recently at UT as an assistant, along with a couple of head coaching roles at CW Post and at the College of Central Florida. What, transfer portal and NIL aside, what would you anticipate being the biggest difference between coaching college players and coaching high school players, as you go about development and creating culture and that kind of thing?
The top of my mind, the first two things that would probably stick out is in college, you get a chance to pick your players. So you get an opportunity to recruit and pick the players that you desire to coach and work with. At the high school level, not so much. You typically are working with what's coming down the pipes for you, or what's in your area that may be zoned to go to your school or your high school. So that would be a little bit different. And then I would probably say, and we dealt with this in high school, but in college, but not as much, would probably be the parent piece. I would say that, parents are definitely involved a little bit more at the high school level than they are at the collegiate level. So that will be interesting, but I'm looking forward to that though, because I do feel like that what I can bring and what I can share just with parents in this recruiting process, and then the development of their daughters will be key as well. But overall, outside of those two things for me, basketball is basketball, whatever level you play it at. It's the game, and it's how you play the game. So I intend to play at ENSWORTH the same way that I have played in most of the programs that I've coached in, is to be aggressive. We're going to score the ball. We're going to play fast pace. We're going to get up in you and defend you. And, I worked at West Virginia, as you said, for 2 stints. And the guy that I worked for at West Virginia, his motto was physical for 40. And I took that with me for many years because he loved physical play. And I saw how we dominated in the Big East when I was in the Big East, and in the Big 12 when West Virginia moved to the Big 12. So physical play and being strong and playing strong is a big piece of who I am as a coach.
You mentioned, and you answered a question for me right off the top. You mentioned that Jason Maxwell kind of found you. What's it like to have somebody come to you and you're not pursuing a situation, but somebody coming and saying, hey, I want you to come and take over our girls basketball program?
Okay, well, Maurice, I hope I don't sound prideful or boasting when I say this, but I have never applied for a coaching job in my entire career. Not even
So it was nothing
Tennessee.
new then, huh?
Same old, same
Well,
old.
But let me just say this though, even though I've never applied for a job,
Mhm.
it goes without saying that when Holly Warlick reaches out to you from the University of Tennessee and you're a young girl growing up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and you've watched Pat Summitt build a dynasty 3 hours up the road from you, you're humbled. You understand the seriousness and the work that it took to build that, and you take it very seriously to try to uphold it and as the recruiting coordinator, get the best players in that you possibly can. So for Jason to reach out to me, I was humbled because, as you said, I've been out of the game for 5 years now. So I'm thinking, hey, nobody's looking for me, although I do have friends that will reach out and say, hey, you ready to come back? And I'm like, no, I think I'm okay. But like I said, I just connected with Jason and I liked who he was, and everyone, we connected on so many people that we knew from Murfreesboro, because he played baseball at Middle Tennessee State University, which is in Murfreesboro, where I grew up. And so it meant a lot. It was special. And just like I said, his vision for the program and this timing at Ensworth with the change of the athletic director, the change of the girls coach, the school's leader, Prentice Stabler, is a new leader at Ensworth. So I think it was a good time.
Coach Reeves, I'm
What
curious.
what did you
Go ahead, Mo.
go ahead? I was just going to ask, as you were going through those conversations with Jason and you had been out of the game for 5 years and you were establishing yourself in the corporate world, what did you have to weigh in terms of, is this something I want to do, or am I kind of comfortable where I'm at this point?
Well, I'm just going to tell you the truth, Maurice. I'm spoiled rotten in corporate America. I work from home 3 days a week. I only go to the office 2 days a week. We travel and do trainings and speak with different companies, and we work with students as well. So that still kind of fed that need to be around young people and to motivate and encourage young people, because once you're a coach, you're always coaching somewhere. You're in some form or another coaching. So it still gave me that. And it was a tough decision because I really have been enjoying corporate America and I've established myself here and have done well. But at heart, I'm a coach. And you start talking to me about the chance to develop young women, and you talk to me about having the opportunity to build a culture and to run my own program at a school such as Ensworth, with all of the bells and whistles that frankly looks like better than some of the college campuses I've seen and been on. You know, it pricks you, and I feel like that I can build off of what Mary has established and keep Ensworth as a dominant and a dynasty, headed toward a dynasty type program.
And in that same vein, I was going to ask, Coach, you mentioned NIL, transfer portal, and you've obviously been at multiple levels of very, very high level basketball. Kind of at large, it seems like we hear more and more about coaches kind of getting burned out and fatigued with some of the extra stuff that has to go into just being a coach right now. You kind of walked us down that path a little bit. Is that the state of the coaching profession as a whole, or what? Is there a percentage maybe? Because it seems like we're hearing that same story more and more from coaches as they move into different endeavors.
Well, if I can be brutally honest, I think that although I'm not against NIL, I'm not against it, but it does change the dynamic when you have some players that are making more than their coaches are making, and having to teach players who feel like I'm making more than you make. Like, I don't know any young people that wouldn't feel that way, from my generation to this generation. If you have an opportunity to be in college and you're driving a nicer car than your coach, you're making more money than some of the assistant coaches that are coaching you every day, it changes the dynamic. The ability to, when I was coaching just 5 years ago, we spent 3 years recruiting Jordan Horston to Tennessee. And Jordan got to Tennessee and luckily she stayed her 4 years. But imagine recruiting someone for 4 years, 3 years, building a relationship with them, giving them the gold ring when they come on campus, letting them play all season long, and they decide to transfer at the end of the year. Like, there's so many dynamics to that can burn you out, because it's almost as if you're having to possibly recruit a whole team every year. And I think that there's so many dynamics to girls basketball that people don't consider, that is not necessarily a case in the guys world, and so I can see where coaches would get burnt out with that, because you put your heart into it and you invest in these young people, and just because, hey, their friends all want to gang up and go to XYZ school, they just make a decision to go to X, Y, and Z school. And if your parents are not happy and your parents think you deserve something different, you could have spent, years recruiting and building relationships, and in a moment, kids can change their mind. I think in any career, not just the athletics career, but in any career where you spend a lot of time, you hope to build loyalty and you hope to build relationships so that we can all see the big picture of trying to move in the same direction of success. But the NIL and the transfer portal has opened up a gate that took a little bit of pressure off the NCAA for the moment, but basically just threw it all on the coaches and said, hey, navigate this. And it's a tough navigation.
SHARRONA Alexander, new ENSWORTH girls basketball coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today. Coach, appreciate your time. Are you still in Louisville? Are you headed home? What's your status right now?
I am still. My son lives in Louisville, guys. I have not had a chance to see him all week long because he works at night and I've been in conference all day. So I'm literally sitting outside his house door waiting for this interview to end so I can go in there and hug my big 6'6" son and spend a little time with him before he goes to work.
Go hug your 6'6" son, Coach. We appreciate you taking some time with us. Look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Thank you. Great to talk to you guys, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Hey, when we come back to the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little baseball. Stay tuned after this break.
The wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. No matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
June 6, 1940, Warren Spahn, a graduate of Buffalo's South Park High School, no word on whether Eric Cartman was a classmate, was signed by the Boston Braves. Spahn made his major league debut 2 years later, but his career was interrupted by his service in World War II, where he was decorated with a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, and he did not become established until 1946, before going on to win 363 career games, the most of any left-hander in the game's history. That was this day in Braves history. Warren Spahn was not on the mound in Boston, either at the Braves Park or at Fenway yesterday, as the Braves got thrashed by Boston 9-0, managing just one hit in that debacle. So, it's been pretty much a one step forward, one step back stretch for Atlanta here over this last little bit. You get the offense and you don't get pitching, or in yesterday's case, you don't get either. I guess it's just a tough stretch, and I don't know what's the most frustrating part of it. They scored 8 the night before. They scored 9 over the weekend. You know what this offense is capable of. It's pretty much the same performers as last year with one notable exception. But, I mean, it's tough to figure out right now.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And you mentioned the one hit. We had talked about it a little bit during the show. That was unfortunate because you got into the bullpen and you still weren't able to get anything. So at that point, I guess the game's kind of a wash, but would have been nice to see a little positivity for ATO. They're reeling a little bit, which is crazy to think about for a team that's 34-25 now, I think.
That's, yeah. I mean, it's all kind of relative.
Start, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that the way your Astros are going right now, you would take 34-25 through 59 games, but yeah, I think it's kind of the way that they've gotten to this point that is the most frustrating, and continuing to watch Philly pull away. And I think Braves fans, as they've looked at the last couple of postseasons and that kind of thing, I don't know that the National League East Division Championship is all that big a deal when it comes right down to it, because we've seen what's happened when the Braves have won it and had that layoff and that kind of thing. So maybe we're setting ourselves up for something different this time around. We'll see, but it's a little frustrating to watch right now. Tonight it's Ronaldo Lopez going against Mitchell Parker for the Nats. The Nats 27-34, and again, we talked about the Nationals coming into Truist Park last week as if this would be a soft landing. Well, they took 3 or 4, so nothing's for sure right now. But this brand new tattoo, I guess, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Meanwhile, your Astros are off today after falling 4-2 to St. Louis to close out that series.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get the sweep just for morale purposes. And 2 out of 3 is obviously not bad considering how they've been playing, but it would have been nice. And you get the Angels on the road for these next couple of games. A little bit of a road swing for them. They'll get a couple versus the Giants to follow as well. So Houston, same old script with them. Can't kind of like the Braves right now. On days they're hitting well, they ain't getting the pitching. And on days they're pitching well, they ain't getting the hitting. And they've quietly, the Mariners have quietly kind of thrust themselves into some decent little ground in that division, leading Texas by 4.5, and Houston sitting there 7 games back. The only downside is Mo is they didn't have the luxury of the fast start that the Braves had, and the only other side is in the American League, where every team in the AL East except for one is either 500 or above. The Central is a lot better, it looks like, overall record-wise than I think a lot of folks. Every team in the AL Central except for the White Sox is 500 or above. So the AL West is kind of the bottom feeder in the AL. So they've got a lot of work to do just to even kind of get into wild card contention at that point.
Yeah. We're going to discuss the White Sox here in a second, but first, again, as we've mentioned, Paul Skeens has become must-see TV since he has reached the majors with the Pirates. Struck out 8 in 5 innings, including a strikeout of Shohei Ohtani early in the Pirates' 10-6 win last night. Of course, Ohtani got even with a 2-run shot in his next at bat, but I don't know. How long does this last? When does the league catch up to Skeens? Does the league catch up to Skeens?
Man, it sure doesn't feel like that they're catching up anytime soon. And I mean, that was a quality lineup that he mowed down yesterday. I watched the top half of the first yesterday. Struck out Betts, struck out Ohtani, and then flirted with striking out the side. Got Freeman to fly out, but this dude is just shoving right now. And yeah, I don't know. And it's crazy to think about because he's basically getting to the point where you could almost borderline bank on a win every day that he goes out there. And Pittsburgh is kind of, they're right around 500, a couple games under 500. So they're not too far off from potentially really being in contention with a guy pitching the way that he's pitching right now for them.
Well, and with the start that they got out of Jarrett Jones the day before, I mean, they took 2 from the Dodgers and that lineup, like you said, and it's you feel like there's going to be a regression to the norm at some point for a young pitcher, but I don't know. It's just hard to get a feel for how he can continue to be as dominant as he is. I mean, again, he's got 38 strikeouts in 27 major league innings right now.
On fire, and as we like to say, announcing his presence with authority.
With authority. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, given the Pirates really something to hope for, like you said, they're 3 games under 500 right now, and he can only go every 5th day. So they got to figure something out for the rest of those. But still, you got to like what you're seeing out of the young kid if you are a Pirates fan right now. The White Sox swept by the Cubs, I think. Or are they playing now? No, they're playing. No, they finished up their series yesterday. They got swept, and the White Sox have now lost 13 straight. Far and away the worst team in Major League Baseball at this point. And talk about them possibly moving to Nashville. No thanks. We'll pass on that. But I just don't know how you get to be this bad. This was a team that was playing for a playoff spot last year, weren't they? Weren't they in the mix? Obviously they didn't make it, but weren't they in the mix for the postseason last year? Late?
I can't remember that, but I certainly remember them obviously not being this bad. And they ended up 61 and 101 last year, but they were frisky.
So no, they
times.
weren't in the mix.
They were not in the mix at the very end for sure, but middle of the season could have been competitive. They didn't even finish last in the division, by the way. Royals were 56 and 106 last year. So things can turn around in a hurry, I guess, if you're Chicago, if you want to look at it that way. But there is not a lot of things to be positive coming out of the South Side right now, because and something I think that yesterday too, that game was delayed. They had a super long delay. They were leading at one point. I know they were up at least a couple of runs at one point in that game, and then the Cubs end up winning it in the bottom of the ninth in kind of just a weird, wild, kind of ugly game that only Cubs or White Sox fans could appreciate, I guess.
Yeah. Falling to 15-47 with their 7-6 loss yesterday to the Cubs. Yeah, there's an article on CBS Sports. Anytime a team requires 30 consecutive wins to hit 500, you can be sure they're going to be a non-factor in the playoff race. And it's kind of setting up a White Sox as sellers in the trade market, including former UT pitcher Garrett Crochet, supposedly on the block. Also, Eric Fetty, former Braves punching bag when he was with the Nationals before going over to Korea and apparently reviving his career. Michael Kopech, Tommy Pham, not a punching bag, by the way. And they've got a lot of guys that could bring some talent back, which makes it even tougher to understand why they're so bad.
Yeah, 13 in a row. That's bad enough as is, but yeah, they're 18 and a half games out of that AL wild card at the moment. They're 26 games back in the division. So, tough times to be a Sox fan. That is faux show.
Tough times to be a White Sox fan. As friend of the show, Christopher Gabriel is. Might need to check in on him, see how he's doing. At least he's got UT baseball to focus on right now. But yeah, times are tough on the South Side, like you said. We mentioned the Sounds were suspended yesterday due to rain. They're going to pick that game up at 5:35 today and then play their regularly scheduled game after that. But there was some good news out of First Horizon Park yesterday, as Sounds pitcher Carlos Rodriguez, who we have mentioned a time or two on this show, was named International Pitcher of the Month for the month of May. Rodriguez went 3-1 with a 3.03 ERA in 5 starts in May, 33 strikeouts, held opponents to a 194 batting average over 29 2/3 innings. So ranked among the IL leaders in opponent batting average, whip, win percentage, strikeouts, ERA, and innings pitched for May. So congratulations to Carlos Rodriguez, the 2-time Brewers minor league pitcher of the year, bidding for a third at this point. So let's go ahead and take our top of the hour break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. When we come back to the Lee Company studios, it is Throwback Thursday, and we will be throwing it back to our conversation with MLB.com's CHRISTINA NICOLA. So stay tuned for that when we come back.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Second hour here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. Last week, we were able to catch up with Marlins beat writer CHRISTINA NICOLA of MLB.com. She was in San Diego, and she seemed quite proud to be out there. Now, I don't blame her. I would have been too. But we were able to talk to her a little bit about Loretto product Ryan Weathers and his recent surge as a starter for the Marlins. And it was kind of prophetic because in his next start after we talked to her, he went out and struck out 11. Now, he took the loss after a string of 5 consecutive quality starts, but still a lot to like about Weathers' performances here of late. And he gets the ball again tomorrow for the Marlins against visiting Cleveland. So we get to throw it back to CHRISTINA and our conversation with her. Check it out. Now joined from Petco Park by CHRISTINA NICOLA, who covers the Miami Marlins for MLB.com. Got a day game coming up out there.
We do. It starts in about 40 or so minutes. Also, hello. But it's a beautiful, shocking day in San Diego.
It's a beautiful day in San Diego, huh? That never happens, right?
Never, right?
Yeah. Hey, you work in Miami and you're in San Diego. Who's got it better than CHRISTINA NICOLA, as a certain professional football coach would say? Yeah. CHRISTINA, we brought you here to talk about one thing, but before we get into that, I have a question. Speaking of Marlins in San Diego, could you please explain to me the Luis Arias trade?
Well, you know, it's a long story. No, unfortunately, it seems with the change of front office over the offseason, as well as the slow start to the season, that the Marlins might be shifting into somewhat of a rebuild mode. And that was, I guess, the first move. It came a lot sooner than I think anyone would have imagined. You don't really often see trades in May. especially early May.
Especially batting leaders.
Batting leaders. I think that it was going to end up being this way, with the Marlins taking him to arbitration rather than trying to sign him to an extension. Arise had told us several times he wanted to stay in Miami, but clearly, I guess that wasn't in the plans. And so the Marlins traded him for, off the top of my head, I believe 3 prospects and a minor league pitcher who came over from Asia and hasn't appeared in the majors yet. And that's part of, I think, probably one of what might be many moves moving forward. And that was just the first, I guess, domino.
This is a team that made the postseason a year ago, features the NL manager, the reigning NL manager of the year, and Skip Schumacher. They were positioned, were they not, to be? I mean, I tweeted, "Are the Marlins trying to not be good?" I mean, obviously they got off to a slow start, but things turn around, don't they?
They do. I think the last 3 weeks or so, you've seen that because the pitching's gotten healthy, but the problem is there's such a big hole that it was going to be tough. But that's one of the first things I asked after the trade to Peter Bendix, the new president of baseball operations, is how much did you take into account the impact that has on the players and the coaching staff, right? If you're trading away your best player this early in the season. And he said that they took it into consideration, but, it's not reassuring when the head of front office says, like, it's unlikely we're going to make the playoffs. Sure. Is it unlikely? The odds are stacked against them. Like, they started, I believe, the season 0-9. No team in the history of Major League Baseball has ever made the playoffs after opening 0-7. So yes, like, they would be defying the odds, but it is interesting that was said. But yeah, like you mentioned, they came off a postseason appearance. You wonder how much of it too, though, is they're going to be without Sandy Alcantara, right? One of the best pitchers in baseball this season, so Tommy John, and now Yuri Perez as well had Tommy John surgery. But then you also wonder, like, next season those guys will be healthy, and one of the reasons you brought me on, Ryan Weathers has had a breakout season so far. You have Jesus Luzardo, who will be a trade candidate. He's under club control. You've got Braxton Garrett, who threw a Maddox on Friday in Arizona. Like, these are names, like, if you held out, this year, okay, let's say it's a wash year, but next year, with that kind of pitching staff, you could be back to what 2023 was like. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward whether, if they trade some pieces, it's to get guys that are position players that are close to the big leagues that can have an impact, because that is the issue. Is the farm system is one of the worst in baseball, and there hasn't been any, like, productive position players to come through. The pitching side has, and they've done well developing it, but the position player side hasn't. And they have, entering today, I think, the lowest runs per game in the National League, not helped, of course, by Luis being traded. Yeah, that's sort of the state of the Marlins right now.
Goodness gracious. You mentioned him, and you have a great article up on the website. Headline: Weathers dazzles with 5th straight quality start. For those who aren't necessarily immersed in Major League Baseball, a quality start is 6 innings or more and 3 earned runs or less, which is a 4.50 ERA. And personally, I'm not enamored with the stat, but Ryan hasn't even come close to that ERA in those starts, and capped it with 6 scoreless, 7 strikeouts on Sunday, and a 3-1 victory against Arizona. It's not as simple as a switch flipping on, I don't think. But what is this about? And it's unfortunate for me that he doesn't get to throw against San Diego. But what do the Marlins attribute this, I don't want to say sudden, but this success to for him?
Right. Well, so in spring training, he had mentioned to us early on just the kind of off-season program he was doing, working with whether it was TrackMan and stuff, but to see, whether mechanical tweaks that he could work on to maximize whether it's velocity, location. He actually didn't start the season great. I think his first, 5 or 6 starts were kind of the things we had seen before, a lot of walks, self-inflicted wounds in that respect. But it's ever since the calendar turned to May, he's been like another pitcher, not even another pitcher, but probably living up to the potential that everyone kind of thought he had, right? The Padres probably did him no favors making him make his major league debut in the playoffs, right? 2020, kind of speeding up that way too much. But now, yeah, like it's been a thing throughout the whole starting staff where they realize we have strikeout stuff, but if we want to go deep in games, help out our bullpen, give our team the best chance to win, get those early outs, early contact, and our stuff is good enough that we can get away with it. And you're seeing that he's the one, honestly, that's been the most consistent with that in the last month. It's kind of when all these injuries were happening to Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, Edward Cabrera right now. Obviously, I mentioned Sandy and Yuri are out. He's been the most reliable guy when they could trust.
And with the trade, and with him pitching the way he is right now, he takes a 3-4 record and a 3.16 ERA into his next start. We're starting the Ryan Weathers for All-Star
game. I know. I've
campaign.
joked about that earlier in this road trip. But if he keeps at this pace, he'll most definitely be Marlins representative. Teams that are not doing as well, you'll probably only get one, maybe two. He would be probably at the top of my list. Him, and then maybe closer Tanner Scott. Yeah, I mean Ryan. I'm looking at his numbers now from that story I wrote. Since things have turned around, second most innings he's thrown in baseball at the time. 13th lowest ERA, third lowest WHIP, which shows you that he's not giving up hits or walks like before. 27 strikeouts, just 5 walks. That's been huge for him. He's been a pleasant surprise. And I think when the Marlins traded for him at the deadline last year, they hoped he'd be a reclamation project like Luzardo was a couple of years before that, where they could kind of bring him into the system. As I mentioned, they've been able to develop pitchers, not the hitters necessarily. And here's another perfect case of that.
Christina, I'm curious. Mel Stottlemyre Jr. has kind of been getting a lot of shout outs. Is he a Ryan Weathers whisperer, or what's going on with the pitching coach, and why has he been so effective in kind of getting maybe some messaging across to a guy who obviously has got a lot of talent?
Well, Mel's greatest. He's awesome. It's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. Like the Marlins were always kind of like, he teaches change-ups, and obviously that's another pitch that helps out guys, but it seems like this staff at the moment is a lot slider, four-seam heavy. But Mel just has a way, especially lately, he was telling me like the do's and don'ts for pitchers. So if they do certain things, there's a potential that they can get positive reinforcement, we'll say. If they do certain things that they shouldn't, like give up leadoff walks that end up coming around to score, allowing guys to steal bases, then they might have to put money in a jar type of thing to say. And I think that's actually motivated the guys that, not necessarily a checklist, but, be cognizant of the things that were hurting them that first month of the season where they couldn't live up to the kind of talent they have. And then it's kind of flipped the switch in May. And I mean, Weathers is a perfect example of that. He's not walking guys as much. He's not giving up steals. And so he's probably getting a nice, incentives right now.
For sure. And, we're still at the end of the day talking about a guy that was drafted 7th overall. And, over the last couple of seasons, maybe you think, okay, we're just going to settle in and this is kind of the career trajectory that he's on. But have you seen, this has been a great story to start the season, but are we maybe seeing a chance for him to really just kind of take off and reach an even kind of higher plateau than maybe we had mentally settled on in the last year or two?
I think definitely and he's 24 and a young 24, right? He turned 24 in December. So, I mean, he's so young. And I said, they sped up the process, the Padres, by the way they called him up. So he was probably learning on the fly, probably shuttling back and forth between the minors and majors. That sort of inconsistency is tough on a guy, right? You're acting like the shuttle. And that even happened with the Marlins last year when they traded for him. You mentioned about it. It would have been nice to see him pitch in San Diego. When he did face San Diego last year, he didn't go too well. I believe that happened. He said he was too amped up, right? So that's one of the things calming his options. But I think the way he's been pitching this year, that wouldn't have been the case if he got to pitch here in San Diego. But I think he's just starting. I'm looking right now at his StatCast. like percentile rankings. His velocity, mind you, from the left side is 80th percentile. It's 95.7 miles per hour average. His ground ball rate is 51.4%, which is 85th percentile. His fastball run value is in the 88th percentile. Like, he's probably just scratching the surface, right? There's a reason a guy selected 7th overall. Like, he had it in him. It's just a matter of, it takes time. It doesn't come quickly to everybody. You know, it's not a linear trajectory either. For all we know, you know, he could have pitch a Saturday and he could have an off game, you know, but it's not, you're always learning something, whether there's a good or bad start, and you're seeing him going up that trajectory.
Absolutely. Christina de Nicola joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Christina, you talk about him being too amped up when he faced San Diego last year. Terribly competitive guy. I mean, I'm sure that the clubhouse is full of terribly competitive guys, but not everybody is playing against their former team every time out. So I can see where too amped up might be the case. Number 7 pick by the Padres in 2018 out of Loretto High School, Gatorade National Player of the Year. Wanting to prove something there, I would think, but he's certainly taken steps toward proving a lot more here over the last little bit. What do you feel like the next step is for him?
I think, and I had asked him that, at what point is it expected, these results that we're getting? Like, it's one thing for him to be like, yeah, that's what I expect out of myself, but where he almost becomes like an ace, right? Where the team, everybody knows that they're going to get at least the quality starters, you know, like the 6 innings, 3 runs or less. But, you know, it's been 5 straight now, but at what point is it just the expectation rather than waiting for maybe it to like take a step back? And I think he's getting there. He's never done this before in his career. It's a career high 5 quality starts. It's the most by a Marlins pitcher since I think last August. Jesus Luzardo did it. And that goes back to like Luzardo took that step last year. Braxton Garrett took that step last year. And now it seems like it's Weathers' turn. And as we both mentioned, if it keeps at this pace, maybe an all-star appearance, which would be well-deserved, especially the way he's pitching.
Absolutely. Christina, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and enjoy San Diego. And we may be checking back with you around the All-Star game, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day, shocker, as we've established. Great day for baseball.
Absolutely. Enjoy
Well
it. We
said.
appreciate it.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, and we are now joined by the Titan insider, Terry McCormick. Terry has been out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, taking in mandatory minicamp over the last 3 days. I guess y'all finished up today, right, Terry?
It finished up today. There's still one more open OTA practice next Tuesday, the 11th, and that will wrap up the off season. The next time they reconvene will be when training camp opens in late July.
So the next time you have to go out there will be when training camp opens in late July.
Yes, after Tuesday, that is correct.
Congratulations. What have you seen here over these 3 days?
Well, I've seen a lot of installation and a lot of getting used to a different style of offense, and I guess starting to see a little bit of the growth process of Will Levis running this offense, and kind of, we've seen a few rough spots, and we've seen a few things that have looked good, and we've seen a few things that are, I guess, a work in progress, shall we say.
I guess that's kind of to be expected, right?
Yeah, it is. When you've got a young quarterback learning a new system, and you've got an entirely new coaching staff, and you're doing things, everything from like working on tightening up his mechanics to, teaching him the offense and him getting used to new receivers like Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, then, you expect that there are going to be a few places where things don't look smooth and don't go smoothly. And then you go back, watch the film, and try to learn from those mistakes and make sure that it doesn't happen the next time.
Terry, my immediate question for you was, who's somebody that jumped out to you that Titans fans either weren't expecting to maybe jump out, or you maybe kind of re-alter some of your perceptions, who maybe had a breakout performance that's not a super household name in your mind?
Well, it's kind of hard to gauge that, especially with linemen. It's kind of hard to gauge that when they're not in pads. But one of the things that they are super excited for is the running back combo that they have in Tajay Spears, who was a third-round pick last year, and then combining that with Tony Pollard, the veteran that they brought in from the Dallas Cowboys. That they feel like that they've got interchangeable parts there. And who knows, they may end up running a few plays and a few packages that has both guys on the field at the same time before it's all said and done. But it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to make this team a lot less predictable maybe than it was in prior years. With all due respect to Derrick Henry, when he was on the field, very rarely did they use him as a decoy. Most of the time, the football was going to land in his hands unless he was out there and it was 3rd and 5 and they decided to use play action.
Terry, also it was today is DeAndre Hopkins' birthday, and I saw a great tweet earlier from camp, and he made a couple really nice one-handed grabs. They said that I think he caught it with the left. They said his right hand is in a contract holdout right now, so he's just only catching everything with his left. What have you seen out of Nuke? As he's kind of seems like he's having a great start to his offseason.
Yeah, I mean, he's a true professional. He's a guy that is blessed with great hands, catches nearly anything that's thrown in his vicinity. And, he's lost a step. He's not as fast as he was when he was 25, but he's certainly, still a very valuable asset and really should be even better this year in some respects because there are going to be more weapons on the field. There's going to be Calvin Ridley. There's going to be Tyler Boyd. There's going to be Tony Pollard and other guys who are capable of making plays around him. Last year, I think, especially after Will Levis took over as the starting quarterback, there was a tendency for the rookie to kind of be a little overly reliant on DeAndre Hopkins and maybe force the ball to him, which was not necessarily a bad thing because if you're going to force it to somebody, DeAndre Hopkins is probably about as good as any option that you had on that team last year. But I think it could be an even better, maybe cleaner year for DeAndre Hopkins because he's not going to be the only player that defenses will focus on.
Terry, so much of the talk about this Tennessee Titans 2024 iteration has revolved around the offense for obvious reasons. You brought in an offensive mind in Brian Callahan as your head coach. You've got a returning second-year quarterback in Will Levis, all the offensive weapons that you've tried to put around him to make sure that he is the guy at quarterback and give him as few excuses to the contrary as possible. What are you seeing in this defense?
I'm seeing a defense that is taking its cue from defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. They're in lockstep in terms of how they want to do it. I'm not saying they're necessarily in lockstep yet as far as installation and execution because it is June and the pads are not on, but you are seeing a definite change in philosophy here. You're going to see a lot more press man coverage because they feel like they have the people to do that by adding Cheeto Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed at cornerback. And I feel like, that Denard Wilson is one of those, he's one of those like a fire and brimstone preacher when it comes to espousing his philosophy of what he believes on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that a lot of these guys are quickly buying in and they're very excited for where they think he can take this defense.
Saw a tweet yesterday from Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN at @TDavenport_NFL. Two things that stood out from Titans DC Denard Wilson. One, it's clear he understands the importance of an interior pass rush. Wilson says he wants to make sure they don't give QBs a lane to step up in the pocket. Two, free releases at the line of scrimmage for wide receivers irritate Wilson. He wants to make sure the corners press and cause disruption at the line of scrimmage. No more lining up 8 yards off the ball on 3rd and 6. You spoke to one of those. That interior pass rush, that's where Sweat comes in, obviously, in addition to Big Jeff. But I'm sure that you've seen both of those points kind of being borne out here over the last 3 days as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this seems to be a new organization-wide philosophy on both sides of the ball, really. Denard Wilson talked yesterday about the importance of being able to collapse the pocket and not give the quarterback, as the tweet said, a way to step up in the pocket and complete the throw under duress. That he said that, you can work and kind of contain outside people with chips and things like that. But when you can get pressure up into the middle of the pocket, it does not really give the quarterback a lane to escape through or a way to step up. So, and then earlier, I think it was last week, Brian Callahan was talking about Lloyd Cushenberry and how he likes a big center in there as opposed to what they had last year with Aaron Brewer, who was really not big enough to play the position. And he said that that center guard triangle, which is going to be made up of Cushenberry, Peter Skoronski, and then somebody from amongst the trio of Sadiq Charles, Dylan Radens, and Daniel Brunskill at right guard. He said that triangle in the middle has an awesome responsibility of keeping guys like Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons off of your quarterback in order to give him time to step up and make the throws and complete passes down the field. And he said that what Callahan said was that defensive linemen are getting bigger and they're still very athletic, and you've got to counter by having big offensive linemen at center and guard in order to counteract that and balance it and be able to protect your quarterback. So it kind of makes sense that this is getting bigger, especially in the trenches, is an organization-wide philosophy on both sides of the football.
That said, you don't get much bigger than the rookie offensive tackle that they brought in.
No, you don't. And he's, a guy who is working hard at his craft. They flipped him from right side at Alabama to play the left side, and Bill Callahan has done that before in his career and had some success with other guys. Tyron Smith with the Cowboys, or no longer with the Cowboys, but that's where he made his mark. And then the guy that is currently in Cleveland, who was also an Alabama tackle, his name escapes me at the time. Yeah, he's done that before. He likes, the size and the athleticism combination that J.C. Latham brings to the table. And I think the other thing, too, that they really like about J.C. Latham is he's got a strong work ethic. He wants to be good. And I think that, he's been putting in a lot of extra work. That is what Nick Holes, the offensive coordinator, told us yesterday, that there was a day where practice was done. They look out the window. It's about to come a thunderstorm, and there's J.C. Latham out there working one-on-one or one-on-none against the blocking sled, just trying to get his technique better. And they had to go out there and tell him, hey, it's going to come a thunderstorm. We don't, go home or let's get inside. So you like to see that. If you're a coach, you like to see a guy that really wants to put in that type of effort.
When you're having to run guys off the practice field, that's probably a good thing. So Terry McCormick, Titan Insider, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Terry, we referenced your story from earlier in the week regarding Traylon Burks and Caleb Farley getting work on special teams, and Brian Callahan's very realistic assessment of where they are on their respective depth charts at receiver and at cornerback. And if they're going to get a hat, as he referred to it, on game days, it's going to hinge on their ability to contribute on special teams.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, that's not to say that, Traylon Burks is not going to have a roster spot, but that's to say that if Traylon Burks, who has not played any special teams that I can recall during his first two seasons, when he was at least slated to be either the number one or number two receiver for this team, didn't quite work out that way because of injuries and whatnot. But yeah, now that he is in a logjam behind DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd, he's going to have to learn to do a few things on special teams. And one of those is going to be maybe being a gunner. Another thing might be being one of the return guys on this new kickoff rule that everybody is so anxious to see and to figure out, how it's going to work and how best to take advantage of the new situation. And as far as Caleb Farley, this is a guy, and as a journalist, you try to be impartial and play it down the middle, and you try to, be as fair as you can. But how can you not root for this guy to at least be able to contribute something with all that he's been through with his family and the tragic situation with his dad, losing his house in the process, the back surgeries that he's had, the knee problems that he's had, I think he's lost his mom to cancer a few years ago. This is a guy who's been through more than most of us probably have been in a lifetime. And he is, still out there kicking and fighting. And, he said that it's just a miracle from God that he's been able to heal as well as he can, and he can't wait to put the pads on. You try, like I said, you try to be impartial, but how can you not root for a guy like that to get a fair shake?
Terry, read an interesting story earlier this week, and I want to get your opinion on it. It'll make sense in a moment. But, we hear a lot about the NFL and being kind of a chess match between the offense and the defense sometimes. And you mentioned Chidobe Awuzie earlier. That applies a couple different ways. Turns out this guy is a real chess player. And, we like to go outside the box occasionally on this show. Do we have a level that we can maybe assign? How good of a chess player is this guy? And I think that's kind of unique in the sense that you're talking about a position. It's kind of bringing this to a little bit of some normalcy here, that you're using your mind in unique ways. And I thought it was kind of neat that a guy is really kind of taking a cool approach. And I don't know that I'll be playing him anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's pretty good at it. He said that I think a couple of years ago, he said it was for fun, and he won, I guess, this tournament among some NFL players and whatnot. So he's obviously pretty good at it, better than I am. I have a bad habit of putting my queen in the way of bishops and getting it taken.
Bad news.
Things like that happen, but nonetheless, Awuzie is a guy that said that chess can help you kind of be able to plan what might happen, 2 or 3 moves out, and kind of setting up strategies as, and I guess that's the way that he would try to set up a quarterback or set up a receiver, and so it makes some sense. There's some correlations there, and he's certainly putting that to good use.
Yeah, he had a cool quote to kind of bring it semi-full circle, talking about positions and just putting himself in the right spot. And you had mentioned him earlier, so it seems like he appears to be acclimating well to Nashville, as that was kind of, as Mo mentioned a moment ago, for all the offensive additions, it seemed like that was kind of a sneaky good signing by the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, it really has kind of solidified the cornerback spot with the addition of him and L'Jarius Sneed, because now you've got 2 guys who are really feisty cover corners who are not afraid to mix it up. They're going to get a defensive holding or a PI call ever so often, but I think that that's probably a decent trade-off in most circumstances. Maybe not at the end of a game in the fourth quarter, but most times that's probably a decent trade-off to keep some of these receivers around the league, like a Tyreek Hill or a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, whoever you want to throw out there, to keep those guys in check and give them something to think about, to know that they're not just going to get a free release and they're not just going to, find that wide open space without a fight from these guys.
Terry, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask, and we talked to Teresa about this earlier this week, although we had some technological issues with her. What read do you get on Ryan Stonehouse and his situation?
Well, he was walking around out there, and then the day that we were in the bubble on Tuesday, due to the rain, he was actually holding on field goals. So if he can bend down and hold, I'm assuming that he's making progress. So that's, a step in the right direction. Callahan was asked about him today, I believe it was, and he said that, it's not out of the question that he could be ready by the time, the season starts, maybe even before that, to be able to do a little bit of work in training camp or preseason. So I think, Stonehouse is a guy that certainly people are keeping an eye on, but it sounds like he's trending in the right direction.
That's about as good as you could expect at this point under the circumstances, I guess, trending in the right direction. So that's good to know. Terry, what have we not asked you?
Well, one thing I want to kind of bring up, going back to the offensive installation, yesterday it looked a little rough at times. Levis threw an interception in the red zone, and today much sharper. But, their balls sometimes in 7-on-7. And I asked Callahan this question. He gave a good answer. He said, I ask about when you are working in 7-on-7, do you want the quarterback to make the correct read all the time, or do you want them to take a chance and see what they can accomplish. In other words, throw it into the tight window double coverage to see if there's a chance you can complete it. He said he likes to challenge them in the 7-on-7 to see that and say, all right, can this work, or will this work, or will it not work? And he said, because you want to challenge them, because you don't really just want them taking the check down to the running back in a 7-on-7 period, because that's too safe and they're not learning anything from it, which made sense, because that way, sometimes experience is the best teacher. And if you can teach Will Levis, okay, you can throw this ball here, but you can't throw that one. If he can learn that in June, it's better that he learns it now than learning it in October when it might cost you a football game.
That's a heck of a point, and that's a great question, and a great response from Callahan, because this is the time to find out, okay, I can make that throw, or no, I can't make that throw. And that's very insightful. See, that's what makes you the Titans insider right there, Terry McCormick. that right there.
That and the name years ago, the name was available on GoDaddy.
Absolutely. Well, there's that. Terry McCormick, TitanInsider.com, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Terry, we appreciate it. May swing back to you next week after you get finished up, and then I'm sure you'll be taking a pilgrimage to Yankee Stadium or somewhere over the next bit.
Actually going to Wrigley to see the Yankees in September. My son and I, we kind of have this thing where we do every year we see the Yankees somewhere. We've been obviously to Yankee Stadium. When he graduated high school, we went to Fenway. This year we're going to Wrigley. We already have our tickets, and lo and behold, it corresponds with the Titans opening weekend in Chicago. So I'll just stay up there and go see that as well.
Very convenient. Very convenient. Good job there. Hey, we appreciate it. We'll catch up with you.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.
When we come back to the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it'll be the final segment, and we'll get into the grab bag. Stay with us after this break.
Are you the biggest race fan? Main Street Media and Rackley Roofing are teaming up to send a family of 4 to the Rackley Roofing 200 truck race at the Nashville Super Speedway on June 28th. All you have to do is head to your favorite Main Street Media site and click on the Rackley banner to win.
Maurice Patton, that's Wade Neely. We are Main Street Sports today, coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And as we said, it's the grab bag. Scrolling through Twitter or Facebook, as we are wont to do. Little news out of Knoxville, little baseball news out of Knoxville. Former Ravenwood standout Zane Denton has apparently entered the transfer portal. Various media outlets in and around Knoxville are reporting this, including friend of the show, Ben McKee of GoVols247.com. Denton didn't play this season, obviously. Despite returning to campus for a second year after going undrafted in last year's draft. Played 3 years at Alabama, originally went into the portal, transferred to Tennessee, and was instrumental in their postseason last year. But again, despite hitting .269 with 16 homers and 59 ribs, went undrafted. And again, did not play this past season, and guess he has another year of eligibility that apparently he is going to pursue elsewhere. Very interesting development, I think.
Yeah, that's the one fascinating thing with the transfer portal. For me, Mo, is always the fact that baseball, softball, as Chip said earlier this week, golf. Those are kind of sometimes forgotten. Baseball kind of has seemingly turned into, it's right in that upper tier. Basketball and football obviously get a lot of the attention, but man, there can be some program changing transfers. As we mentioned with Skeens, we've seen some guys that can really play this thing to their advantage. So I will be keeping tabs on how this one turns out. And it's kind of neat to think about in the sense that baseball, especially, maybe you get one or two key transfers, and who knows, that could be really all your team needs to really click and make a good run the next year.
Absolutely. Women's College World Series Championship Series began last night between Big 12 rivals Texas and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, the three-time defending national titleists, got a jump on number 4 with an 8-3 victory last night. Had a couple of back-to-back home runs to kind of take control of this thing early after Texas had thrown 3 straight shutouts to get to the championship series. And I just continue to be amazed at what Patty Gasso and the Sooners have done. Again, 3 consecutive national championships, 7 innings short of a fourth. It's astounding to me. It really is that one team could dominate this sport to that degree.
It really is mind-blowing, and the crazy part, obviously, is it felt like Texas. I didn't get to watch any of the game, and so I'm assuming you show up and you especially when you're a program at that level, body language, maybe not. You would hope wouldn't play too much into it, but you just gotta think deep down that those Longhorn ladies were hoping that it was going to be Florida rather than Oklahoma in a sense, because man, after that first game, now you're sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, we were on such a roll, and now these guys show up and have kind of just done what they do best. And I've joked over the years that my dad is the ultimate barometer on usually major women's college athletics, and even he last night was like, man, you're telling me Oklahoma's in this thing? He had not kept up with the series as much this year, and he said, I don't see how Texas can beat them because it just feels like they are inevitable at this point.
Well, and that's what's odd about it, because we had Eric Henry on earlier in the week, and he talked about the turning point for Texas was winning a 3-game series against Oklahoma during the regular season. Now, Oklahoma came back and beat them in the Big 12 tournament, but if you're Texas, you feel like you're right there with them until you're not.
Yeah, and that will be the interesting thing. Speaking of body language, now going into tonight, does Texas show up with that team that was playing on a roll and business as usual, or do they show up kind of with their heads already hanging a little bit? Because man, Oklahoma, after being kind of down but not out versus you gotta kind of cut the head off that snake, as it were. And man, I'm hoping it's 2 good games. I'd love to see Texas come back and force, obviously, a winner-take-all game. But I even regardless of who wins tonight, I'd like for it to be a close game with a little bit more drama than we potentially saw last night.
Yeah, but like you said, it's almost like Oklahoma senses that anxiety, that apprehension, that doubt, and senses it and seizes on it. So if there is any opportunity for them to break it open, you can pretty well count on them to do so. But yeah, you'd like to see it be a close game and possibly force game 3 tomorrow night.
And I love when teams do that. I love when teams sense just a little bit. Those are usually the signs of elite teams, right? I mean, not just great teams, but elite teams is we're already good enough to probably beat you. But if we see just a little sliver of doubt,
the least crack,
we're taking it. And from a team and competitive standpoint, I love when teams jump on them like that. You can get a sense a little more in person. Obviously you've been around the dugouts for a long time. But it is kind of a cool feeling when you sense that from one team, and you can also obviously sense it a little bit on television, but being there in person makes it that much cooler. So I love when teams, those killer mentality teams, do take over like that.
When you can kind of feel the tide turn, and it's like, here we go, or uh-oh, or whatever it is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Either Texas or Oklahoma is going to be featuring that softball championship trophy at their welcome to the SEC party, because we've talked about Texas. It was, well, obviously Oklahoma has one as well. Monday, July 1st, OU announces July 1st SEC celebration events. I just don't know that I've heard of anything quite like this with institutions changing conferences. I mean, again, we talked about the Texas celebration with a globally known music artist set to perform as part of their festivities at the end of the month. Well, Oklahoma is got a bunch going on Monday, July 1st, the first day of their Southeastern Conference membership, and they're going to be celebrating in multiple locations, apparently, both in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa, as well as on campus, I guess. They've got a 5K race to the SEC run. They've got a Midnight Madness sale where fans will have their first opportunity to purchase officially licensed OU branded SEC merchandise. Wake up in the SEC events in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. There's a pep rally in Norman from 11 to 1 on Monday, so I guess everybody's taking off from work that day. And the summer equipment sale. Now, this is interesting. The summer equipment sale will make its return from 2 to 7 p.m. Now, how much is that going to be valued if it's got Big 12 branding on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is that branded equipment going to have the Big 12 logo on it, or are you going to be one of the first people in line to potentially get some SEC merch, which is just a crazy concept that you're basically buying an item just with a different patch, right? I mean, it's the same thing. So that is kind of a unique phenomenon there to see what kind of merch will get bought. And kind of to your bigger point, Mo, I do think it's kind of funny, but I guess we maybe shouldn't be shocked. You're talking about two of the bigger programs in all of college sports joining the biggest conference in college sports. And, you know, no disrespect to Kennesaw State, but them having a big blowout about joining Conference USA kind of it just wouldn't feel the same.
Just doesn't carry quite the same weight, huh?
As much as you would hype it up and as much as you would, like to really blow it out of the water, it just doesn't feel like you could probably pull off an event of this magnitude with that type of move. No disrespect to the Owls, I suppose.
No disrespect to the Owls. No disrespect to Conference USA. Yeah,
just doesn't feel worthy of the occasion, I guess.
Yeah. Wade, have you had a chance to look at these Winter Warrior
uniforms? Baby.
The Minnesota Vikings have revealed their all-white Winter Warrior uniforms that they will be wearing in their Week 15 game against the NFC North rival Chicago Bears on December 16th. All white, purple numerals outlined in silver. I mean, including white helmets. I mean, this is icy. This is as icy as it gets right here. And I mean, Minnesota in December, pretty icy as well. So it makes sense. But man, that's sharp looking.
Those are slick. And I'll tell you, Mo, we've kind of entered this realm, in the last 10 years where the uniforms get just as much hype as anything else. I'm still in the NFL, at least, and maybe even the NBA or MLB. I kind of still don't really, it seems to me more of a college thing almost. I don't get quite as excited about the pros.
Right.
And some teams, they go horribly bad. There's a certain NFL franchise in Houston that rolled out some new ones this year that I don't particularly think look that great. But
You
these,
didn't like the I'm going to tell you, I kind of like that powder blue outline on some of the stuff. Now,
but
I mean,
these,
these
whew, Monday Night
those are
Football.
legit.
Monday Night Football. The only bad part, December 16th. You just hope that the Vikings are not, 1-8 at that point, or that the Bears haven't, made up. If you just hope that it's a good game, because nothing would stink worse. The good, it's an ultimate gamble, right? You gamble by having them in that primetime situation versus your rival. But if you show up and your team ain't doing so hot and you debut those threads, it kind of could be a little of a buzzkill.
Kind of falls falls flat. Yeah, but I mean the
Those are
unis
sick.
will look good. They are legit, man. That's a good look.
Supposedly been in the works for 2 years, the Vikings said, which is crazy to think about. But man, and Yahoo on the article we're talking about here. Imagine this: they mentioned, imagine that sucker is snowing, and at a minimum, we're going to get that old school. One of my favorite things ever, still in the history of football, is when you see the offensive and defensive linemen, just the breath going, and I mean.
And
I'm
those
getting
uniforms,
I'm
the
getting
all
goosebumps
white.
thinking about that right now. But yeah, that could be epic.
There's no gold anywhere in this, not on the helmets, not on the jerseys, nowhere. I wonder if the guys will wear gold cleats, though.
Pull your 84 jerseys out, baby, because that one will be. Whew.
Yeah. These are definitely the real deal. Looking forward to that. Stanley Cup Finals start Saturday. Edmonton and Florida. And the Oilers would be the 6th team to win a Stanley Cup championship after firing their coach during the season. I'm sorry, the 6th team since 2000. That's kind of wild. 6 times in, 25 years? A team has fired its coach, and the new coach has won a Stanley Cup. I just wouldn't have expected it to happen that often.
No, you're right. It seems that seems like a little bit of a unusual. That's a head scratching stat. And we had Valère Shabila on a couple weeks ago talking about, in soccer, the teams will get a bump. Sometimes those teams even go on a really good run. But man, talk about winning the Stanley Cup with a brand new coach, in a sense.
It happened just twice in the 20th century, once in 1932, once in 1971, but since 2000, it has happened 5 times. Craig Berube with the Blues in 19. 3 years earlier, Mike Sullivan with the Penguins. Darryl Suter with the 2012 Kings. Dan Blisma with the Penguins in 09. And in 2000, Larry Robinson led the 2000 New Jersey Devils to the Stanley Cup championship. So that's interesting.
That is crazy. Here's a little bit of a crazy. There's always a little bit of a connection, Mo. How about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a little bit of a stretch, but I'm reading here that they fired Jay Woodcroft. They went 3-9-1 to start the season. So I started, Googling a little bit about Mr. Woodcroft. He played 4 seasons of collegiate hockey at a program near and dear to our hearts, just down the road at Alabama Huntsville.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Okay. There's always a connection. Absolutely.
Wow.
Hey, thanks for joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will be in the Lee Company studios tomorrow at First Horizon Park, coming to you live as we get ready for the Sounds in Louisville tomorrow evening. So join us 2:00 tomorrow. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We will see y'all at 2 bells.